Calling all units, calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.
All right, welcome back to Donut Shop Podcast. Back in the Donut Shop this time, and I'm here with Danny Morales from Bleeding Blue. Bleeding Blue Incorporated or Bleeding Blue, just
Bleeding Blue Incorporated.
Yeah. Try to come, don't be too relaxed.
I locked this here so that I can sit back, but it's not gonna work out.
Unless you want to do the old hold it, but
no.
I did that in Jersey, and my buddy, he tapped the cable the whole time, and it was causing a tapping noise, and in the edits it's there. I'm sure people heard it, but it is what it is. I did a 30-minute podcast with my buddy who was a firefighter.
That's the one that was holding it.
I
saw that one.
Yeah, so I did that with him. He was a fireman on the mound the day after 9/11, doing bucket brigade stuff, and then I did an episode a couple hours before that with the guys from Tone Alert podcast from out in the Nevada area. Not to say what agency they work for, but the Florida Panthers are going to beat their hockey team if they end up playing them in the Stanley Cup Finals. So that's just my thing. So you are. Let's kick it off. Welcome to the Donut Shop, and thank you for coming. And I've been aware of your foundation and what you guys do for a while now. It's mostly all South Florida based. You even helped out when one of our officers was shot in the line of duty. Still with us. So what's up, Rob? I was talking to him in Publix last weekend. So you guys do good things across the board, and you have large special events, and one of those special events you want to talk about today, and we will get to that. But I like to establish you and sort of tell everybody who you are, and then you can tell us about the organization and stuff. So you're currently an active police officer and a detective. So what do you do?
Yeah, so I started my career with Miami-Dade Police Department, now the Sheriff's Office. And I've been on the department for about 8 years now. And out of those 8 years, I've been a detective for about 5. So I've been in the Homicide Bureau for going on 4 years now. It's been a very quick but long, if that makes sense. Time goes by really quick when you're there, but it's a lot of long hours. I love what I do. It's really rewarding to be a homicide detective and just be able to bring closure to the families that just lose somebody in life. At the end of the day, it's not a normal. It's actually very normal to lose people, but not the way that they lose them. In these murders.
Yeah.
So it's rewarding to be able to bring justice to those families and put a piece of crap person in jail for the rest of their life.
Yeah. And so that's going to probably be something interesting that I shouldn't really gloss over that, hey, I got a homicide detective sitting here. So we can't discount that. So how do you guys work it out? You guys are on rotations with teams, and, Dade County being large, you've got your own, partnering jurisdictions that you have to work in, but then you also go to certain cities that have established police departments, and you guys are the homicide investigators for that jurisdiction. Where do you work?
Yeah, so it's pretty much all of Miami-Dade. So there's, I want to say, don't quote me on this number, I want to say there's 37 municipalities. We cover 32, something like that. I know there's 5 police departments that we don't cover. That's a lot easier. The larger
ones like Miami Beach.
City of Miami Beach, City Hialeah, North Miami Beach, and who was the last one? What did I miss? Regardless. The one it's easier to remember the ones that you don't have to handle their cases, right? Because there's so many other ones, the smaller departments. We're very busy in Homestead, Florida City area. Coral Gables is pretty busy sometimes. We get some, suicides and stuff in the Sunny Isles area. Every other department that's a lot smaller. Miami Gardens we don't handle.
Oh, Miami Gardens has their
forgot about them. Opelika has a lot of shootings too, so that's pretty hot in that area there. So
I think you guys would probably pay Miami Gardens to have their own detective bureau and homicide detectives, because it's there's so many.
They can keep that.
Yeah, they run probably close to multiple jurisdictions as far as what.
And it's actually slowing down, right? So it's you see in the last 4 years, I've seen the numbers decrease. So it's you can put that to the credit of the detectives that are doing the good work out there and putting the key players in jail and actually having cases that stick and they're not getting dropped in court. And so it's
Yeah,
we
'cause
see those numbers decreasing.
there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just like, oh, figure out who did it and then arrest them, because then you could lose the case.
Correct.
And then that guy's back out there and he's got a propensity to kill somebody, or no problem with it, obviously.
Something that we always say is your case doesn't start until the moment that you make an arrest. So that moment that you put cuffs on the person, you take them to TGK, and that day is the moment that your case starts. Because now you have all these court proceedings and you're on a ticking time bomb for court. You have 21 days to file for the arraignment. Then you have depositions and you have hearings. You have an Arthur hearing because they want to get out of jail. So it's like all that stuff is happening, and you got to work on your case file, bring in all these reports and stuff like that. Whereas when you are still investigating the case, you can kind of be more strategic and investigate at your own pace.
Yeah. Because there's definitely a time clock that hits for all that stuff, and that's one of the things that people don't understand, and they ask us, and we deal with it a lot. Like I dealt with it when I worked with the media, when we would have like even traffic fatalities. Those are always hot ticket items, at least for my city. Why haven't you made an arrest yet? This person, you know who hit them. They were there on scene, and it's like, look, we need toxicology reports. We need all that stuff to get out, and it's not Law and Order where they go put a rush on it and it comes back in 2 hours. Yeah. It's not happening like that
at all.
So you could have a capital murder and there's not toxicology reports or a fingerprint or DNA that's getting rushed through, that's getting finished within the hour, so that
I want to say the fastest DNA turnaround that I've had is probably like 3 days.
Wow. And
that was just like, we had video of like the person dropping this item, and it's like, okay, we know for a fact it's his. Why not rush this? Let's rush this. And then, even then it was 3 days. And that was just like hey, this is your hit. We'll give you the report in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because they have a whole nother, the lab is just a whole other animal,
Yeah.
And we work very closely with them, and we have those relationships and stuff, but it's definitely not First 48 vibes. It's not CSI Miami.
Yeah, CSI Miami, all that stuff. I mean, it's exciting, and you were able to start that pretty young in your career. Was that something you always wanted to do, or was it?
Yeah, so I got a good opportunity to become a general investigations detective. I was handling person crime, so attempted murders, and I did that for about a year or so. And the opportunity presented itself to go to homicide. I got a phone call one day when my leg was broken at the time. I had played basketball. I went up for a layup playing basketball. I came down, broke my leg. So I'm sitting on the couch, and that call comes, and the major calls. He's like, hey, I heard you were interested in homicide. And I was just like, yeah, but I can't walk right now. He's like, well, you got 2 weeks. So I, in 2 weeks, showed up at the office, and I was limping. I had to take the cast off and whatnot and make it look good. But 4 years later, we're here, man. I went into the unit with only 3 years on the department.
Yeah.
I can say that there's benefits and there's flaws to that. Pros and cons, I guess, is a better way to say it. I didn't get the rush out of me to finish doing police work on the road. Like, I still have that eagerness to go and stop a car and do all the fun stuff that we do. But at the same time too, they can mold you as a detective into what a homicide detective should be doing and what the mindset is and stuff.
You may not have adapted some bad habits or something that police work that officers can adapt to or bring in. But yeah, I mean, so that's cool. And then, of course they've seen, and then you work for Miami-Dade. So we've said that a lot about like South Florida and stuff. An officer with 5 years experience in South Florida is different than an officer with 5 years experience in sometimes middle America that, handles only a couple calls a week, or they're very basic. Like, we're handling in South Florida because of the population, the diversity of the population, and just the transient nature of the area and all that kind of stuff. And there's so many eyes on it. So there's just so much going on that, you can get a lot of experience in just a few short years. Yeah,
we work in a team of 5 detectives and a supervisor. Mm-hmm. And there's a total of 8 teams. So roughly around 40 people there in the bureau. And it's just a straight rotation between homicides and death investigations. So death investigations being accidental suicides, overdoses, stuff like that. I would say from the top of my head, I want to say I'm somewhere near the 150 cases that are mine. That doesn't include...
That you're lead.
That I'm the lead, yeah. That doesn't include cases that you go and assist other officers or other detectives on their cases, other homicides, police-involved shootings. Just going out and giving insight on something that, real quick, maybe I didn't even write a report on or put it on my case log, but I went and did something on it, like just oversaw something.
Right, because we'll have guys on the team that are back at the PD helping writing warrants, or because they're sitting at a computer to be able to do that. Then you've got people that are going out and doing interviews, side interviews of like witnesses and picking up camera, footage and stuff like that. Aside from just what the lead detective is working on, and then if they get a suspect, you're handling that interview and stuff. Yeah,
you're in the mix. Yeah. I mean, I almost had to cancel this podcast because then we worked, 20 something. I think it was 26 hours straight, flipped it around, had a police memorial, and then it was nonstop. So it's like, you never really know, at the end of the day, it's just, hey, we have eyes on the subject, and you were planning on going on a date tonight, and you're not going,
Yeah.
So, but it is rewarding. It's nice to be able to put somebody in custody that took someone's life.
Of course, and I've talked to on this podcast like Freddie Ponce from City Miami, and he's kind of famous from the First 48 TV show, and so the First 48 is sort of real. Like there's a cool off after that with movement and the ability to find evidence and stuff. So
I would say that's one of the more realistic shows, right? Obviously, because they incorporate a lot of the interviewing and stuff like that, and they had on-scene interviews with these detectives and stuff. So Freddie is hosting a pretty cool class coming up, and his company is teaching now. So it's actually very nice to see that these detectives that do lifelong careers in law enforcement want to continue teaching the new generation. So Freddie offers a lot of investigative techniques classes through his group. I have a commercial in my bank of commercials for him. Freddie's awesome, and then he also consults with his stuff in Brazil that he goes down and basically helped like a John Walsh type situation where he assisted the Brazilian police in their investigation. It's amazing. I didn't even know he did that.
Yeah, he talked about it on the podcast. Talked about it at first because there was a young girl that went to a school like function in the gymnasium kind of thing, and this street walking guy came in. And there was security and everything, but got in. She was separated from her mom, snatched her up, took her in the bathroom, killed her, and then disappeared. And it's Brazil, so there's not cameras everywhere, all this kind of documentation. So he was instrumental in going down there and helping. And he started that when he was working, going down there and advising, and then really kind of helped. And the mom was huge in pushing out the message in Brazil, and so he talked about it on the podcast. And then they got so much information out that one of the byproducts was, of course, whenever there's a big news story, is everybody starts looking at every person in the street. So they're finding people, and they ended up finding other like houses where children were being held hostage and stuff like that. So it's like people were like, this guy on the hill, I think it's this guy. And then the police would go searching for the original case, and then they'd turn up some other case, and they're like, whoa, okay, well, this kind of works, at least for this case. But
we can't call timeout on this one, but I mean, it would just inherit this one too.
Yeah, and and they've saved some people. So he's done some amazing work with everything that he did down there. So
I don't know him personally, but when I say it all the time, like I think as naturally as if you come into the Homicide Bureau and you see a career here, and it's not just like, hey, this is just a stepping stone to something else, because there's really no other stepping stone. You're at the top of investigations. There's no other crime that's worse than killing somebody. So you come to the unit thinking, okay, this is a long-term thing for me, whether it's 5-10 years, maybe you're a lifer. We have those lifers, and you look up to those lifers, and you have nothing but respect for them, because it's like you put in the hours for 20 years. The amount of trauma that you went through for this many years, you didn't see your family.
You live that schedule.
Yeah. And it's just like, it is what it is. It comes with the job, right? But just knowing, like, if we stick solely to the amount of work and time and effort that goes into just solving one case, imagine how many you've had over 15-20 years. So it's like you look at these legends, and it's just like, damn, I want to be there one day. Yeah.
I mean, and you've got such a Rolodex or file folder. I mean, it's a file cabinet towards the end of a long career of working in homicide. But the quote always is on challenge coins and stuff: "Our day starts when your day ends," and it's true. And you never know when that day is going to end. So it could be, like you said, when you're going out on a date or coming on a podcast. podcast.
Yeah.
So
God forbid.
yeah. No, like let's not. You just work on cell phones. You guys don't have pagers anymore.
We're not doing. Hopefully, there's nothing happening at the donut shop today.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Here, no, I didn't bring a gun either. So we're gonna have to fight our way out of here.
I'll throw this microphone at somebody. We'll make it happen, bro.
These things are heavy. You could probably swing it around like a mace.
What
or
about
something
these
like
donuts here?
Yeah.
Like, don't kill me. Have a donut.
Yeah, exactly. Eat that and you'll choke on it because it's rubbery and fake. So yeah, let's take a quick break and then we'll come right back. Cool. Yo, what's up, everybody? I want to let you know I have a new website format. Same website, donutshoppodcast.com, but this time I'm running it through Shopify. Make it much easier to purchase items because aside from the hats that I have up there, Donut Shop Podcast, PVC hats, the blue line snapback, laser mesh, nice and clean on the inside, comfy hats. I have some other swag, t-shirts, can koozies, just some other stuff that I put up there. I'm running the website through Shopify, and so it'll make it real easy for you guys to go on and purchase some stuff and support the show. So thanks for tuning in and following the show, and don't forget donutshoppodcast.com. Thanks.
So that's why I built InkMD, to address a niche, a very real need for medical grade wound care for real wounds. Tattoos are real wounds. I don't understand why we continue to treat them differently. There's just nobody's bridged that gap yet. We're talking about relatively superficial trauma to the skin. The quicker it heals, the better. Especially with tattoos, because the amount of ink that's retained in your skin is dependent on that healing process. Real science, real medicine, with a very ancient and very personal art form.
Jump over inkmd.com and use DSP15 when you want to make a purchase. All right, back from break. So Bleeding Blue is a foundation. You created this, and like what led you to create it, and like where did it come from?
I wish it would have just not been an idea, but it's a necessary idea, right? So Bleeding Blue started 2022. We lost an officer, Cesar Echeverry.
Yeah.
He was shot and killed. He was a Miami-Dade officer chasing a subject. While running, produced a firearm, shot him. Cesar shot back, and both of them were deceased. We found a need to... Well, Cesar worked for my brother. And my brother calls me. He's like, hey, there's an officer down. I'm going to the hospital. And I respond just to go be there for my brother. And I'm just like, hey, listen, I get it. This is one of your guys. I'm going to go. And I show up there, and I get suckered into the homicide world. And, they're like, hey, go. We need you. Like, we need bodies. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, you're here, and you're a homicide detective.
Yeah.
Like,
you're off, but we need you.
Yeah. All hands on deck for this one. Because
I remember,
for that, just to interrupt, are you guys investigating that, or is that FDLE that comes in?
It's both. So we handle the predicate crime.
Okay.
So whatever was going on that led to that police chase, and then the police officer involved shooting is FDLE.
Okay.
And that had changed to probably 2016, 2017, around there. For transparency reasons, but we're still heavily involved. The FDLE uses our crime scene and everything like that, so a lot of our resources. So we're kind of just working hand in hand.
Yeah.
So I responded to the hospital, Ryder Trauma, great trauma center. Unfortunately, they couldn't save him, but they call me, and the lead detective sees me from across the bay. The hospital bay, and he's like, hey, you have clothes? And I was like, I'll go get clothes.
Yeah.
And I literally drove to a Ross, and I bought my only pink shirt that I have now to this day.
Yeah.
It's horrible material.
Yeah.
But I still have it. And
it was $17.99, so it was okay.
Yeah, it's probably cheaper than that, actually.
Okay.
And I put on a shirt and tie, and we went at it, and I got put just to be next to the body the entire time, next to Cesar's body.
Oh.
And with that is allowing one person at a time to come into the room and say their goodbye, and see him. And then there was a family member in there, which was his fiance at the time.
Yeah.
And I had never experienced anything like that. This was my first on-duty death. And it sucked to be a part of that. I didn't know Cesar like that. I just knew Cesar worked for my brother. He was always a humble kid. As a matter of fact, he helped me apprehend my first homicide subject.
Yeah, because Caesar worked for RID, which is the robbery intervention detail. Yeah, so and those are the hardcore street crimes guys that are SWAT certified usually, and they're hardcore hard chargers out there doing some of the most violent takedowns and violent work.
Yeah, they're top notch.
Yeah.
Undercover. They're in modified uniform.
Yeah, a class of uniform.
Yeah, but they're also in unmarked vehicles, right? So they're chasing these cars that are known to be, or they have bolos out for being a robbery vehicle or stolen vehicle.
Yeah.
But at the same time too, if they come across a homicide vehicle, it is what it is.
Yeah,
they're cops.
that's the team that you guys call in a lot of times, aside from SWAT to be on the ready. But that team is the hunters.
Yeah,
those are the real hunters in Dade County.
Yeah, so I didn't know him personally, but like I said, he helped me apprehend my first homicide subject. So it's like even when I saw him on that first time that I met him, and I was like, hey, thanks for your help, man, or whatever. He was just like, yeah, man, that's what we do. It's just a good kid.
It's just a job. Yeah.
And I say kid because he's my age, and at the time we're both the same age. So it sucked. It really did suck. And seeing the trauma that my brother went through and his coworkers went through, and just seeing, I spent a week with his family before they took him to the ME's office. Homicide felt like we needed to do a fundraiser. Mm-hmm. We made a challenge coin. It was homicide on the one side. There was a picture of Etchy on his dirt bike on the other side. Challenge coin, we sold $15,000 worth, and we donated that to the family, and that was pretty cool. It was unique. It was something that we did on our own, and a lot of different fundraisers were happening at the same time. It kind of just happened, right? And then a little bit after that, Damian Colon was shot by his girlfriend in the city of Hialeah.
Right.
Damian's a good friend of our family. He worked with my brother on the same squad, and it kind of goes back before police work. Damian's dad was my patient at the pharmacy. I used to work at Publix Pharmacy.
All right.
In Miami Lakes. I was pushing pills.
Yeah, that was during the height of it, I'm sure.
Yeah. And his dad was just one of those guys that just come to the pharmacy, and he'd be like, hey, is my medication ready? And I would just be like, no, give me 5 minutes. He goes, I got all day. We'll just sit here and talk. And we just sit there, and I'm counting by 5, and sometimes you forget that he's even there, but it's like he never gave you a hard time. He was just a good person overall. Mm-hmm. I become a cop. His brother, Damian's brother, becomes my sergeant. So it's like now I know the dad, I know Damian, I know the brother.
Yeah.
Damian gets shot, and immediately, obviously, like that's where our mind went. We're like, hey, we need to help this family. And Damian was the owner of UC Apparel.
Yeah.
I should say is the owner because he's still alive with us, thankfully. So it was just like, okay, maybe the family doesn't need any money, but I know the business has operating needs. They have a store, they have bills to pay there. So it's like whatever we raise, let's just donate some money to them. And with the permission of the family, we were able to do that and donate some money there. And then me and my brother were just like, hey, listen, like we're kind of good at this, we're doing it. Maybe we can do this a little bit more legit on paper. Bringing donations from corporate sponsors or even just private donors.
When you're getting donations, a lot of times the corporate donations or the larger ones, they want tax ID numbers and stuff like that, and just to keep things from getting muddy or affecting your personal, it's all about taxes and stuff. Yeah. But
Uncle Sam.
Yeah, and so to protect yourself and also to make sure that the full funding is going towards the beneficiaries rather than having to pay for operating costs and all that kind of stuff. So
so that was the idea. It was a little bit of a reckless one. Looking back now, it was just like, all right, let's do this. Jump on Sunbiz and make a corporation.
Yeah.
And my mom came up with the name of Bleeding Blue. My stepdad's a cop. My brother's a cop. I'm a cop. So it's like my mom's been around police work all her life.
Yeah.
And, she came up with the name. We jumped on Sunbiz and we're like, all right, let's do it. And it wasn't that easy. There's a lot that goes behind the scenes of, running a nonprofit, keeping up with the IRS, the 501c3, just applying with the state of Florida to be able to receive and collect donations, even solicit donations, and then now you're doing bookkeeping services. You're paying if you want a warehouse. Now you got to get tax receipts and stuff. There's a lot. There's a lot and stuff that I didn't know in 2022 when I decided to do this. I started the process probably like early September. We finally did everything by November, and then as the year progressed into 2023, it was just like, hey, you need to do this. You forgot to do this. Here's a fine for not doing this, by the way.
Here's a fine that's double the cost of the original price.
There's no checklist.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's at all. And it's like, no matter now, I'm at this point, I'm like, I'm going to become a nonprofit consultant because I've gone through the shit to figure it out myself. And, thankfully we've been successful with Bleeding Blue. So Bleeding Blue was born. It was originally to fundraise for fallen officers, injured officers. That kind of transformed into helping officers that were injured off duty, because it's like when you're injured on duty, you have workman's comp. So you're still collecting something, but these off-duty incidents, you have to burn your own time. You're not making overtime, stuff like that. So we started helping there too, and then that kind of we've been at it for 3 years now. So that kind of transformed into now mental health initiatives. So it's definitely grown.
You end up finding, and it's probably just the nature of police officers, or at least the right police officers. You're finding work, and you're just like, okay, this part runs well, and thank God we don't have another line of duty death or another injured officer. But it's like, what can we? Here's a need or a hole in the boat that I can kind of fill, and I can plug or try to help out with. So the mental health side, and you guys do a lot of events. You said basically like weekend after weekend after weekend. And how do you?
My girlfriend's sitting right over here, and she looks tired, more tired than I am, because she's just like, we have an event tomorrow.
But dedicated, probably lots of coffee, and all that kind of stuff.
I got a new mug here, so I appreciate that.
There you go. So. And then to go back to that first section, talking about the homicide, like how do you juggle some of the fact that you're on call or on a case? You were telling me 20 hours before this. How do you juggle all that? Like how do you manage that so that you're not in need? Maybe the mental health side is created to assist you as well.
So I said that I did the mental health conference last year, and I was like, I'm gonna sit front row because this is for me. And it didn't really work out that way because I was running around behind the scenes. But it's tough, man. It's tough. But I think the real reason and the motivation is like the passion behind it. Mm-hmm. I'm doing two things that I truly love. And it's kind of like anybody's hobby, right? So it's like if you love playing basketball, you're going to find time to go play basketball. Mm-hmm. People that do the gym, I can't stand the gym. I mean, clearly look at me. Like I've never gone to the gym. Yeah. But if you love going to the gym, you're going to go every single day and you're going to have that discipline, maybe do 2 a days. Mm-hmm. This is my motivation. And I don't make any money from this, but giving a check to a family member that lost somebody, and just making that relationship, like we were just talking off camera now, and it's just like you're talking about a family that, I've assisted in the past, and it's like I don't know them personally, but I feel like I do because it's like we spent an intimate moment together, just crying, over a loved one that shouldn't have died but risked his life and gave it all, So it is that's the passion, that's the motivation. That's what keeps us going. The homicide stuff, that's what pays the bills. So it's like,
it pays the bills, and over time you become good at it. And just like police work, like me in my 20th year now, like I can go to these calls, and although everyone's different and they all have their variations, they all really have the same groundwork. And as long as you're good at the groundwork, and then you're good at adapting and working your way up, the same thing can be said about homicides. It's essentially the killing of another person, and then you just work from there, and then you're just building up from there, and you can do that while still juggling a couple other plates and dealing with it. And then if you said you have a team of 10 people that work with the organization, and
so our board of directors is comprised of 10, and it's 10 of us in total if you include me. We have an executive vice president who's also a homicide detective.
Okay.
The other vice president is corporal with Hialeah Gardens. Okay. And then we have a chaplain on there, City of Hialeah police officer, another Miami-Dade officer. Who am I missing? Oh, we have a mental health counselor, and a North Miami Beach officer. So it's like and my parents, which my dad's retired, and
helpful to have retired people.
My mom is she just goes. She does whatever we ask her to, and she's ready to volunteer. So it's like they're all volunteers. They all love what we do. They all believe in the mission. They also show up to all these events. So it's like I'm not alone. right?
Yeah.
I stress myself out more with just like planning and like, hey, what's the next step? Let's do something else. Like you said, all these initiatives we're finding work. That's me, and everyone's like, dude. It's funny because we'll do on the group chat. I'll ask everybody. I'll be like, hey, who's available for Saturday's event? And I'll put, I'm available. I'm not available. Danny's a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then everyone clicks Danny's a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, all right, now I know everyone's available.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, we do the same thing in group chat. Like my sergeant he got a new phone, so he was having a hard time with getting back into the group chat for honor guard. So he's like, hey, we got a funeral or a viewing Friday night. Who's available? And that's I do that kind of thing. Like I just create a list because it's like, not to shame the people that aren't chiming in, but it's like, hey man, I see you read it. Like,
Yeah.
Can you at least say yes or no?
Yeah, whoever
Like,
created that red receipt, you're awesome.
yeah, because it's like, look, I know you saw it, dude. Like you cleared the notification off your phone and you opened it up. Like just yay or nay, or say, hey, stand by, check in schedule with the family.
Yeah.
Like,
but those are the like the pains of a leader, right?
Yep.
It's like having to, make sure you're not burning out your people either, and you're not forcing people to do volunteer work.
Totally.
And that's something that I've learned over the last couple of years. It's like we're all at the same level in the organization, regardless of, for a long time everyone was like, oh, Danny is bleeding blue, Danny, and I didn't want that.
Yeah.
And me and my brother started this, and my brother has stepped away to do some other private business that he's working with, and he wants to hopefully step away from police work if he can bloom in that, right? That's everyone's goal, is make more money eventually and do something more chill.
yeah.
But originally it was, okay, Danny and Brandon, and then now it's just Danny's bleeding blue, and it's like, no, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that do a lot more work.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my board members the other day was like, hey, Channel 6 reached out and they want to interview us, and I was like, you know exactly why we started and what we do. You can go.
Yeah.
Go. And so it's nice to be able to now see everything come to fruition and enjoy everything that we've grown. And last night at the police memorial, one of the officers that was speaking gave us a shout out, like, hey, shout out to Bleeding Blue, they have resources for officers. It's like, we made it, like, mama, we made it.
Yeah, no, yeah, totally.
But
and that's great. And that's what we're in that. I hate to call it. I don't want to call it the season, but we're in that season of the memorials based around the memorial in DC for Police Week and the Law Enforcement Memorial. Dade just had theirs last night. Broward's is went this Wednesday. And then we were talking about how we're going to be in Police Week. I think this episode may not drop till right after Police Week, but it is what it is. It's a amazing time to reflect on a career if you haven't had the firsthand knowledge or the firsthand experience of, like you did with Etchy, like being in that hospital room, and having to go through and witness each person and trying to stay strong and try to maintain the sanctity of the case, as well as everybody's emotions and dealing with that. So it's amazing to see the community that can be grown, and it's difficult to keep the community going and keep that the passion for all of it, and understanding that not just because maybe it didn't happen to your agency, you got to understand that you've got to be there to support the other agencies, because we're all going to do the same thing for you if it happens to you. So it's tough, and sometimes we get burnt out by it, because I know during the pandemic, like Honor Guard, I was getting burnt out because of the amount of funerals that I was having to go to attend, that we do door guards for family members within the department or something. It felt like almost every week.
Yeah, one of my partners in homicide is the leader of Honor Guard for Miami-Dade, and I see him all the time. And it's like yesterday at the memorial, I was just like, I went up to him, I was like, hey, are you good? He's like, unfortunately, I just want this to be over with.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. It's a lot to be able to sacrifice everything and sacrifice your own family to provide for other people. But it's like, we understand why we're doing it. When you do it, you understand the impact that you're making, and it's a feeling that honestly you can't replicate. There's nothing else that's going to fill that void of just being comforting to a family. And sometimes these families don't even want it. Everyone grieves differently. Yeah. And I've reached out to people that have lost someone in the line of duty, and they'll be like, hey, listen, like Bleeding Blue is available for you. We want to do a fundraiser. They're like, okay, we don't need money. all right, cool. Well, you don't need money, but let's do an event for unity, right? Let's bring coworkers that may be struggling with this together, and just play softball or have a cigar night and just
Yeah.
smoke a cigar and have a drink or whatever it is that we typically tailor it to like that niche of that person. If they rode a motorcycle and they're into bikes, we'll do a bike night.
Yeah.
And some families just don't want it, because they're still grieving, they're still through they haven't gotten to the next step of grieving, those
Yeah.
5 stages, which I learned in school, but I don't really remember them.
Yeah.
And it's tough, to balance that, because it's like we want to do for people, but sometimes they don't want it.
Yeah, no, it's they got to want it because you want it to be effective. You don't want it to force it down somebody's throat and to traumatize them again or overstress them in that, and to leave a bad taste in the mouth or further bad taste from this situation that they're already dealing with. It can be a lot, but it can also be cathartic for those people, and sometimes they don't realize it. Just out of a normal old age death. When my grandfather died, it ended up being an amazing weekend because we had so much family come in, and we kind of got together after the day after the funeral, and a pool party sort of at my house or at my parents' house, and all got together, and it was amazing to see other parts of the family that we hadn't seen in a while, catch up, hang out. It's always one of those, hey, let's do this again.
And that's very different, right? It's like, unfortunately, it's like that's the only thing, 2 things guaranteed in life: you're gonna pay taxes and you're gonna die.
Yeah.
So it's like you get family members that are at that age already, and it's like, all right, they're sick, it is what it is, right? And then now you're more. You're getting ready for it, right? Their paperwork is already filled out, and they have their will established and stuff like that. And it's like when the day comes, now we're gonna celebrate the life that they lived.
Yeah.
And that's something that I want to touch on a little later too, especially like on the suicide side of things. But when you have this unexpected death, people react very differently. We had someone pass away not that long ago, and then they just like the family flips up, and then now they're doing like initiatives like to remember his name. Then you have people that you talk to them a year later when the anniversary comes around, and they still don't want anything.
Yeah.
So it's like it is what we try to respect it. And if it's like we can't do something for that family specifically, then we know that there's a need to assist all the coworkers and stuff that are impacted by it as well.
Yeah, and then maybe if it just be kind of like a light naming of what this is, so it's not like a full banner event, that the family's going to see and be like, oh, now you guys are just holding events. But when it's that law enforcement family, there's many more people that are affected by it and that deal with it.
We have we did a fundraiser for an officer that was injured, and it's very different from a fallen officer, obviously. But to fundraise for him, and now he is like, we have a group that's basically called the Bleeding Blue Ambassadors. So these are volunteers that are not necessarily readily available for all events, but they want to come and support. Now he is more present than board members are. Like, he is at every single event. Mind you, he lost his leg during this incident, so he has a prosthetic. Comes to all these events, volunteering 7 a.m. He's there to the end. He's packing up. He's helping us like load and unload the trailer. He's just present. He appreciated what we did for him, and now I see him, and I'm just like, I step back sometimes, and I'm just like, damn, like he's wearing a Bleeding Blue shirt now. And the other day we just did another fundraiser for someone in Florida City, also amputated, and he was like, Danny, I want to go to this when you give him this money. And I was like, this is a no-brainer. In my head, I'm like, he lost his leg. This one lost his leg. This is going to be a great connection for them. They're both cops. A great connection for them to, just bond.
Yeah.
Come to find out that he didn't know that this one lost his leg. He just knew we were doing a fundraiser. He didn't know what happened to this officer. It could have been he got bit by... I can't even say that because that's actually what happened. Whatever it is, he could have broke his nail, and we're doing a fundraiser for him. Yeah. And, he just wanted to be there. He's like, I wanted to experience that. I wanted to see it from your eyes now. Instead of being a receiver, I want to be a giver.
Yep.
And it was just like a moment that...
Well, and then the interesting thing about that, and it probably happened, is that now that they can create that association bond where, hey, listen, I've been an amputee for this amount of time. This is what I've learned. This is what I've seen. These are tips and tricks. These are things that you need to, and then they can associate with each other and build that community, for each other, and then maybe even roll that out further, because the organization's still young, and you may grow those kind of people. Like I, sat here with a guy that I met on a call that had been paralyzed from the chest down, and he was in a wheelchair, and he does wheelchair rugby. So it was called murder ball, and now it's wheelchair rugby, and that was one of the biggest things that he learned, that he found amazing from playing it, was because he got together with so many other of different variations of paralyzed individuals that are rolling around playing this sport. Some that were in war that lost their legs or lost.
These guys like tackling each other on a wheelchair.
It is insane. I learned about it through my wife, who's an occupational therapist. When she was in school, one of her teachers was instrumental in creating this documentary as an occupational therapist. These guys have, if you see the basketball wheelchairs, the wheels are a little slanted and all that. These ones have almost armor on them because they get banged up, because they're on a volleyball or basketball type court. They have goals that they have to get to, and then they have like a volleyball. Put it in their lap, and they're rolling. And they, boom, slam into each other, bumper car style, knock each other over sometimes, and they're going for the ball.
Local in Miami?
This is legit. Yeah, it's local. He plays for a team out of a ranch in Tampa that's like a Wounded Warrior Foundation based. There's like 2 teams out of Tampa. He says there are local people that play here, but he's working on getting on the U.S. national team because it's a Paralympic sport, like that I watched on NBC when the Paralympics were on right after the Paris Olympics, and because I knew about it. And so I had seen him on a call in my city, and then I'm watching him practice, and I go, I know exactly what that is. I go, what's up, dude? And I gave him my card, and he was sitting here, rolled into the donut shop. So his name's Daniel. So he was awesome.
We're just all great.
Yeah, just a Daniel thing.
Awesome.
You guys can't see it, but there was an eye roll, from the gallery here. But so it's cool, and that's what he said. Like once he started meeting other paralyzed guys, he realized like it's not the end of the world for me. Like it happened to him and Kendall in a car crash. Like that's how he got paralyzed. And so he's paralyzed from the nipple line down. His hands don't even really fully work to like he was demonstrating on the episode, like picking up a coffee cup. He wasn't doing this. He can't do this. He doesn't have the grip strength to be able to do it. But he's like, I like this because then I can put my fingers in here and I can actually, I'm like, all right, cool, thanks.
He's found like that purpose, right? It's like, okay, this is my life now. He's accepted it, and I mean, I'm sure it sucks, but and that's kind of how I felt when we did the first fundraiser for Julian, and now we see Julian coming and helping out this other officer, and it's like, I knew the officer, the second one that we did the fundraiser for, and we're just shooting the shit, and we're talking and laughing about how he gets a break from all the cases in Florida City and all this good stuff. And then it's like, okay, he's amputated. You can kind of see he's down. But the moment that Julian came over and started talking to him, it was just like, that's it. All right, this was like a Tinder match.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Like
they know exactly what. They started talking about doctors, and this doctor, and I heard about this one, and then it's just like, and it sucks, but you're making the best of it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was nice to sit back and be like, Julian's wearing a bleeding blue shirt. That was just like a full circle moment.
Yeah. No, ambassador is a great word for it because they're out there, speaking the gospel about it, or speaking the truth about what the organization did for them, and then passing it along to other people. Like a review even, so people understand that you guys are out here working for them or trying to work for them.
That was the big thing that a lot of people asked us in the beginning, like, hey, what's the difference between you and all these other organizations that are out there? And honestly, in the beginning, I didn't really have that answer. I was just like, we want to do our own thing, our own way. And, our missions are kind of the same. They align with everybody else. Like everyone wants to do something for someone. But we are more boots on the ground type of organization. It's like, we don't have private funding, so everything that we bring in is from either people that are buying merchandise from us, and whether it's t-shirts or polos or mugs or hats, right?
Yeah.
Or we're hosting physical events that like sweat and tears that go into these things, months of planning.
Yeah.
I'm already planning my event for next year. My 5Ks in September hasn't even been announced yet, and we're already doing all this preparation. So no one else is doing that. I could tell you that and the organizations that are doing it, they're hiring companies to do it for them.
Yeah.
So this is coming from the 10 individuals that we have within, putting the hard work that goes into it. And that's something that's very different from us. At the same time, we also don't interfere with anybody else's fundraisers. If PBA is doing a golf tournament, you'll never see a Bleeding Blue golf tournament. If POAT does the bike ride to the Keys, very successful event, why am I going to try and replicate that and
Yeah,
take
why are you
money?
going to create
So it's like we have very good relationships with everybody. We had those haters in the beginning, like, oh, just another organization. If I grab money from a soccer tournament or a softball tournament that no one's doing this for, why not? That's money that wants to get donated, that nobody else is grabbing, and it's going to the same person or same cause, right? So it's like, why not take advantage of that? It's not for publicity. It's not for fame. I don't make $1 off this. If anything, I lose money.
Yeah.
And a lot of time, I can tell you that. But it's something that's needed. At the end of the day, there's just a need for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like everyone asks, like, why do you do it? And it's like I don't have that answer. I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. So is my group. And we have a good support system.
Yeah, and if it's not monetary, it's that reward and understanding that you did help somebody and that they appreciate it and they're getting something out of it. And I think a lot of it goes towards the mental health and everything after the fact of either a death or an injury or just trauma through a career and what we do. So let's take a quick break and then let's talk about the upcoming events and stuff. And then kind of like you said, you've added another facet of mental health, which is very prevalent. So we'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Cool.
Hey guys, I'm sure that there's many of us that are aging and we've thought about hormone replacement therapy. I've visited my doctors and discussed it, and I'm still kind of on the fence and not really sure what I want to do. But now I think I've kind of found it, and I know that we could all use a boost of testosterone in our life. Well, check out the best in the game, Human Performance Team. It connects you with doctors via telehealth, and you could submit your labs that you've maybe already been done, or you can get fresh ones done. They offer a variety of services like primary care, urgent care, weight loss, and even mental health. We all know that, these jobs weigh on us and our mental health. Jump over to hptrt.com and use the code DSP for a continuous discount. Use the code DSP and get on a road to better health. What's in the cup? Guys, what's in my cup? Blackout Coffee Company. We joined up with them. I've been drinking it and I enjoy it, and I think you may enjoy it as well. So you can go over to our website and click the link, or you can just go to their website, blackoutcoffee.com, and use our coupon code to get 10% off. The code is DSP10. So go over, check it out. All right, we're back for the final segment. We're going to talk about upcoming events that you have, and then about how you've kind of moved into or added to the plate now mental health and what you can do for officers that are here around. I mean, also still injured or getting injured and stuff for mental health.
Yeah. So the organization naturally it was hosting events and doing all this stuff, and we were hosting an event for Freddie Ramirez, who was the director of the Miami-Dade Police Department, and we knew he didn't need money. We knew that was a workman's comp incident. We knew that he was going to be taken care of. He's obviously a top official. But it was somebody that was very well respected in law enforcement. He was a leader. He's just not, he wasn't just up there. He was a leader. You would walk by him. He would take the time to introduce himself if he didn't know you, and he would talk to you. How's your day going? You look stressed. Let's talk about it type of guy.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, his incident occurred, and thankfully he's with us today. But we hosted a prayer night, and it was just like, hey, let's get people together. We know this is affecting a lot of people, and no one wanted to do anything. I pitched the idea to a lot of top people, and no. And I was like, you know what, screw this. I said, here's the money to pay for the cleaning lady at the banquet hall that we're using, and we're hosting this. Bleeding Blue is hosting this. And we put it together. We got, everyone, of course, once Bleeding Blue puts their name on it, they're like, oh, yeah, we'll go support that. It's not our name behind it.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. We know the purpose of the event, and the mayor came out. I know everybody else. The director after him, Stephanie Daniels, was there and stuff like that. And it was just a night of prayer, a night of gathering and unity. Have some food, drink some coffee, and then disperse. And while we're there, I'm texting my brother. I'm like, "Yo, where the hell are you, dude? This is a big event. Like, I need you to be present. I'm stressed out. I don't know what the hell I'm gonna say. I'm not a big public speaker. I get super nervous. I get really red. My pigmentation is just doesn't work out.
You're doing all right. You're doing all right.
Thank you, bro. And I'm texting him, and he's like, I'm outside. I'm on the phone. I was like, get off the phone and come inside. I don't know what to tell you. And I end up finding out he's on the phone with an officer that I went to the police academy with, a great friend of mine. And she called him to tell him that she wanted to commit suicide the right way, not how he did it. I guess in her eyes, he failed.
She's talking about Freddie.
Yeah, on his suicide attempt. Which I mean, if we don't know the full story, and it is what it is, there's a lot of bullshit out there, and I'm glad he failed. He's still alive and he's making impact now. So that obviously raised some red flags, and he went over there to her house and got her the help that she needs, and she's on a path of greatness now. And that was our moment to wake up and be like, okay, this happened to Freddie, and this Freddie's incident is affecting other people. Mental health in this field is huge. I come from homicide. I see trauma on a day-to-day basis. I live trauma. I have my own traumas. I also have experience in this in my personal life, where as a teenager, I've had those suicidal thoughts and ideations and all that stuff. So it is, and my mother as well. Thankfully, my mom is my rock today and has always been my rock. And we're able to talk about these things now because we're past that, right? We've gotten the help that we've needed, and now we're able to support other people. And although it's something that fluctuates every now and then, mental health is not just like hey, you got over it, move on.
It's like exercise, or it's like a healthy diet. You gotta maintain it, or else you're gonna lose it.
So it's something passionate for us as well, and we were like, all right, let's do this. Where do we start with this, right? And I had the dumb idea of hosting a mental health conference, and I was like, let's do this. And I say it's dumb, but it was a great event because of the amount of work that went into it. Travis Howes was our guest speaker last year. We flew him down and brought him in. We had John Manning, which is the sergeant involved in the Breonna Taylor incident as well. So another very huge national news event. And both of them were able to come in, and we had a crowd of 425 was the number last year.
That's great.
Of first responders. We had 12 vendors in the mental health field. And that was our start to, starting this initiative for helping first responders. And our organization is based for law enforcement only, but there's a need to help dispatchers, firefighters, and any first responder. Period. Corrections officers. So the event itself, the mental health conference, is generalized to first responders. So we hosted that event, and we were like, okay, how do we continue after this? Obviously, we're doing it again this year, July 19th, Miami-Dade College. We'll see you there.
Jump on it.
But, we found that there needs to be a quick resource guide for different tools that are out there. There's so many organizations out there that are doing great things, 24/7 hotlines, whether it's text or call. If you want to just speak to a peer support member in a different area that you don't know and it's confidential, and you pick up the phone and you call them. Like, if I were to go up to any police officer that's walking into this Dunkin' Donuts right now and be like, hey, you know who you can call when you need something? And be like, no. There's different resources out there. So we created on our website just a list of those general ones that we trust and we know that are reputable and are reliable, and they have the proper funding and the proper personnel that are behind it as well, culturally competent, right? And that's just a resource guide. So we put that on our website. We created a keychain, a bleeding blue keychain, very, subtle. It's not screaming like, hey, this is a mental health resource tool. And it's just for people to, have with them. And we started distributing those as a tool for everybody as well. And now we've kind of moved into, we brought in, we have 2 peer support members on our board, a mental health counselor on our board as well, who is just, they're kind of spearheading the mental health initiatives within Bleeding Blue. So we're hosting our first culturally competent class for clinicians in Miami-Dade.
So when you talk culturally confident, you mean people that have that understand, that aren't necessarily like just starting the whole thing. Like, tell me cop stories.
Yeah.
Like listening, people that have already worked with cops, deal with cops, and kind of understand their mentality.
Yeah, I mean, we're unique, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we see the worst, and we also are most likely, I would say 90% of cops are alpha females and males. And it's like we, have our own traumas at home. We are human beings. We go through regular divorces, and we go through financial issues and stuff like that. We have drinking problems, like the normal stuff that everybody that in the community has. Now you're adding that aspect of the job onto it as well. So it's like,
and we're also that peer support person or that crisis responder on a daily on calls that we're going to. So we're going to, I know I've done it when I've spoken to somebody. I pick apart what I tell them, and I tell them snippets. I tell them little things, and I basically explain to them why I'm well. And it's like, you may be well, but it's like there's things that you've got to work on. And when you're talking to a therapist or whatever, and I probably didn't get, because I was a hostage negotiator for 9 years too. So it's like I went through 600 hours worth of training at Nova Southeastern University for mental health. So I get a lot of that stuff, but it's like, so I'm picking it apart. And that's where you kind of need somebody that understands that and can kind of break through that defense mechanism that most of us probably create.
I sat in therapy with one specific therapist, and I went with her for probably like 6-7 weeks, and I just remember sitting back and like I would tell her some of the stuff that I would see in that, like in a case or homicide, and like, or just like opening my phone and have a gallery of dead people. Like, that's weird, right?
Yeah.
That's not a normal response. But and I'm telling her these things, and it's like she doesn't understand, and I know that she doesn't understand, and it's like, okay, how did I get with this person, right?
Yeah.
And it was like it went through insurance and stuff like that, so it was just like it was the person that was available, and she helped me in a lot of different aspects, but she didn't understand my job. She found it more interesting. She's like, oh, this is a live First 48 episode, like 1 hour every week.
Gee, thanks. Yeah.
And so it's like now with this training, we're gonna create a provider network in South Florida that are people that have gone through this training, the people that are teaching it is a mental health counselor who's married to a cop who's a peer support specialist. Mm-hmm. They're teaching the class. It's accredited by the medical board, and excuse me if I'm saying these terms wrong, but I'm no expert, right? I'm just leader of Bleeding Blue.
Because I think it's a 40-hour credentialing.
Yeah, so it's like they're getting basically CEs, which is continuing education credits for their license. So you're doing an 8-hour day there. Part of that 8-hour day is you're going to be involved in scenarios, shoot, don't shoot. You're going to be sitting down, listening to dispatchers take calls, call takers and dispatchers, in different scenarios that it's being put together by North Miami, actually. And the second portion of that is doing an 8-hour ride-along. So we're putting these clinicians in a police car or a fire truck to come experience what we're dealing with. And then at that point, you will be put on this provider network that Bleeding Blue is going to be, it's a readily accessible list of people that are trustworthy, that have the interest of going to these courses to serve our first responders. So that's another.
How's somebody that reaches out or calls the number or looks into it? How do they pay for it, or how's it? I believe it's a $200 class, and I say I believe because again, the mental health stuff, I'm no expert in it. That's why we have the experts in our group. No,
right?
I'm saying like somebody who's affected. It's like somebody that is in need of a clinician or in need of a person. Is it something that they'd probably be able to go through their insurance?
Yeah, so these clinicians all have private businesses. So let's say, for example, Danny's therapy office, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it's called. I go take this course. My name gets put on Bleeding Blue website as someone that can, you can call at any time. Now,
so it's a reference. So it's a reference guy, just like we do with a lot of us. Like, hey, I know a tile guy, I know a bathroom guy. We've got good references. This is somebody who does it right and does a good job, and then the price is right, that kind of stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, as far as like for instance, we got a phone call from a police department the other day. They wanted to send their officer to a rehab in service rehab for alcohol addiction, and his insurance covered a good portion of it, but his copay was over $1,000. Hey, this officer wants to go to this training, but he can't afford the $1,000. Can Bleeding Blue do anything? And we said, absolutely, send me the bill, and we paid for it because we see that as something that this guy wants to get that help.
Yeah.
right? And unfortunately, there's no real follow-up with those things because it's kind of touchy. It's through the department and stuff like that, and it's confidentiality and stuff. We understand that, and we don't mind that donation to what their goal is, their ultimate goal is, but it is something that we are passionate about, and we want people to get the help that they need. So those are the scenarios, like if someone were to reach out to us and be like, hey, we can't afford therapy and it's $50 a session or whatnot, we have those funds. We're also working with, we just got a $20,000 grant from Ocean Reef Community Foundation.
Awesome.
And that covers South Dade, Homestead, Monroe County officers. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to be doing a workshop with Homestead. Planning, actually at 3 o'clock today, I'm planning one with Monroe County. So it's different initiatives, different money that's coming from different places that all have interest in helping first responders. Bleeding Blue is just trying to become that
the
foundation.
facilitation for it and get the experience in it so that they can direct someone that is trying to get that, either if you're an organization that's trying to help but doesn't necessarily know how to, you can be that resource guide, and then the other resource guide of the person that's looking for the help and that needs it. So it's awesome. And the mental health side of it is its own thing in itself. That is its own, which is, like you said, it's good to have those people on the board that can sort of spearhead that, be the vice president in charge of mental health.
Well, that's kind of how we split the board now, right? I mentioned that we have 2 vice presidents. I have one on the mental health side, and I have one on the fundraising and event side of things. And it's I'm here, I'm supervising them, but they're the ones doing it.
Good.
And these are people, especially on the mental health side, these are people that have the experience, peer support members. They're have certain training that they've been through their personal departments, even life experience. At the end of the day, just talking to someone that's going down a slippery slope, and I can relate to you just because of my life experience. I don't need no training to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like if you can talk someone off a ledge because you've been on that ledge before, that's better than going to a freaking 40-hour class.
Yep.
Those are the individuals that we have there, and we're growing that. We actually added someone to that committee, mental health committee, and we've actually it's been a conversation. It's like, do we want Bleeding Blue Mental Health to be its own nonprofit? And I was like, I don't want to do that paperwork.
It's just you just gotta have the documentation together and make sure you have a delineation, especially if there's donations that come that are like earmarked for specific purposes, and that you're just using it appropriately, and that's a whole nother bear in itself is monitoring the movement of all that.
So we've thankfully been able to donate $280,000 to over 60 families in the last 2.5 years, and then on the mental health side, we've spent over $40,000 on resources alone. And this is just the start of the mental health side of things. So it's growing fast, it's moving fast. I'm not sure if I can keep up, but I am going to keep rolling through the punches.
And it's important that you keep your team involved and keep your team engaged in all of it, because it's going to weighs, I'm sure, heavy on your shoulders, dealing with it, because there's plenty of people that have been affected by it and that helped by it, and I'm sure that you don't want to leave them behind, and it's important for people to be involved. So, so July 19th,
Miami-Dade College.
Miami-Dade College.
North Campus, School of Justice.
North Campus. So I'll share the flyer and stuff. I think I remember. I think one of our majors last year put it out and said. I think they just said, because is it free or does it cost money to attend it?
There is for Sunrise, it was free actually. Okay. I think I know. Who you're
I don't know what Sunrise means, but for an agency that I might know, certain agencies may be free, certain they have to pay, or so that kind of thing. So
it just depends on, like I said, the grant that we just received, like Homestead, Florida City, Monroe County, they get it free because it's covered under that grant.
Excellent.
One department had reached out to me and said, hey, we were told no, we don't have the funding for this, and I was like, well, I'm telling you yes, so just tell me how many tickets you want.
Yeah.
So
very cool.
Yeah, there is a cost, and the reason for the cost is more so for making sure people show up. If you have free tickets and it's like I wake up on that Saturday morning and it's at 8 a.m. I'm like, I don't want to go listen to this. I'm not gonna show up. But if I spend $40 in it, I'm gonna go and show my face and maybe get the free food.
Hey, that's why I go to the gym that I go to, because I have to reserve a class.
Yeah.
I know that if I might take up a space that somebody else wanted and I don't go, it's accountability.
Yep.
And a lot of times, because in South Florida, and I compare this to a lot of things in South Florida, if you don't have accountability, you just will find something better to do, because there's a lot of things that are better to do, in opinion. You just go to the beach that day. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to go to the beach. Beautiful day.
That is mental health. Yeah, that is you're being at peace with your family. But it's like,
but if an organization took the time and effort and everything, they put something together, and everybody decides, wow, there's not a cloud in the sky, that's a great beach day, we're all just going to go to the beach. It's when you got crickets in a room, that's also disappointing, and it's not good for your mental health.
Yeah, exactly. I will not be happy that day.
So it's
so
great.
we have a good lineup. There's about 9 speakers. We have a panel of 4 individuals that are going to be talking about the 4 pillars of mental health. Police lieutenant talking about his police-involved shooting experience and how that didn't affect him. He had 2, so I should say the one that made national news didn't affect him, but the one that didn't make news actually affected him. Mm-hmm. We have an artist that's coming in. He's a previous firefighter who he transforms his emotions or people's emotions into artwork, and it's a very unique way to express himself. Clinical psychologist that's coming in as well, flying in for that, and then our keynote is going to be Jason Sheckerly, who he was burned alive in his vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
And suffered, I believe it's 40% of his body was burned.
Yeah.
So he's an amazing speaker. His story is incredible. And, we're really excited to host this for everybody. And I think it's a lot of different avenues that we're touching on. You got police, you got fire, you got the medical side of it. You got those TED Talk conversations, live podcasts during lunch break, talking about addiction. A lot of resources that are going to be available that day as well. So it's catered to people that need the help, but it's also the people that don't need the help, and think that they don't need the help to just learn, because at the end of the day they can help you spot certain things that you see in your coworkers or those people around you that that need it. And then on top of it, you get the resources. So we have a lot of departments that are sending like their head of peer support and to come and learn and gain that knowledge, gain those resources, make connections. I still to this day, from people that I didn't even know last year, communicate with. There was people that came up to me last year, and I'm here running around the entire day. I didn't even get to listen to anybody's speeches.
Yeah.
But they came up to me and they would spot me and they would be like, "Hey, Danny, like you saved my life today, thank you." And they'll walk away and they're in tears, and I'm just like, "I didn't catch your name."
Yeah. Can you have a card or something? Like,
thanks. I guess.
Yeah.
You know where to find me, bleedingblue.info.
Yeah.
So it was awesome to get those reviews and those reactions from people, and that's kind of why we're doing it again this year. And a lot goes into it, and hopefully we're just able to get the people in those seats. And unfortunately, it's not a topic that anyone wants to talk about. Shit, I don't even like talking about it sometimes.
Right, you're afraid that you're going to be labeled as you walk into it as like, oh, do we need to watch you, or that kind of thing. But it's important to just be intelligent about all of it and understand like what's going on. So very cool. So bleedingblue.info is where all of the clearinghouse of information. That's where you go, and then that's how you can find the social media stuff for Instagram, for YouTube.
YouTube, we're not too big into YouTube right now.
Okay.
So it's a lot of Instagram, Facebook, a lot of stuff on our website. Everything is pretty much funneled through Instagram. A lot of event updates. We have a 5K coming up. We're going to be hosting a casino night, cigar and
I know
casino
you guys
night.
do the pig roast or the
pig roast is not us, but we definitely sponsor that event, and we join them. That's the PBA that hosts that. It's an amazing event. It's thousands of people that come out and just roast the pig and just having a good time. At the end of the day, our organization is always going to support everybody else. So.
Yeah.
But all our info is on our website. I just updated the shit out of it, so it's we got some nice pictures on there now. Our sponsors are represented on there. So as we grow, we make these changes and we adjust and adapt, and it's our nature as cops, I guess.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you. I mean, it sounds like a good spot to wrap. You have anything else you want to add, or
no? Shout out to the donut shop.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. It's I'm glad we were able to finally hook up, and this is great, and it's good information, especially for South Florida. And I know I've got a big audience in South Florida, so hopefully you guys are still here and you're getting out of it. even a little bit. So thanks a lot, and we'll check you on the next one. Bye.
Calling all units, calling all units. Donut shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.